This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
.607 right now. The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook. Because every Wednesday night at this time, Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie proudly presents the African American Scene with Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. You know, there is so much going on, and we've got the vice presidential debate tonight, which I can assure you I will hightail it out of here so I can go home and I can watch that. We had our president who came down with COVID, and at last count, I understand there's 18 people in his administration that's got COVID.
It's not like there's nothing to talk about tonight.
I know. 18 people. And all of those people out there, some of whom have unfriended me because they were telling me that this was all a hoax. I guess you know now it's not a hoax. 18 people. Wow. Well, in any event, I posted on Facebook, which I do a lot, is what my topic was going to be for tonight. And what I posted was, why have we become so divided? And I asked my followers to share some of their thoughts with me. And I'm not going to read all of the thoughts in their entirety, but I'd like to share some of the thoughts that some of my followers have passed on to me because I thought they're on point. This was from Michael Zerga. Like I've said before about the Jim Crow laws, they were put in place to keep working poor from speaking to each other. The wealthy elite could care less. They're detached. If you can keep people divided and mistrustful of each other, you can control them. All divide and conquer. If you will, the true injustice in the system is classism. Interesting thought. And I'm going to read a comment from my good friend, Dorothy Jackson. This is a long one. I'm not going to read all of it, but she makes some really good points here. Racist attitudes have been living among people for generations and perpetrated by descendants of the first racial divide, the Civil War, and those who have come to live in America by economics and culture. Those feelings, misconceptions, dislikes, and plain old hate for people who don't look like them were alive and covered up by years of tolerable management. And I'm going to go skip down here to where in 2016, 40% of the people elected Trump who pulled back the sheets of racism in America. I think I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. They crawled out, ran out, and screamed free at last. The Tea Party disappeared, and a new groups that were more brazen and more open on how they feel emerged with Trump's blessings. So that, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that I feel that he allowed some people to emerge from the shadows that had been pretty much kept under control since the 70s, and he allowed them to jump forward in terms of their own personal feelings. And this is from my friend Elliot, who's a newscaster, recently retired in the D.C., Maryland area. I've always believed, this is Elliot Francis, I've always believed that we as a country have and will continue to suffer from some degree of division. It's a product of the great experiment, bringing together people from different backgrounds and cultures to live under one system. There will always be those who can't resolve the differences. Interesting. So those are a couple of the comments. There's more here. Let me just read one more from Carol Ann Hurst Summers. This is a very thoughtful comment. I think we as a society have not paid enough attention to community and the nurturing of it. We have not even defined what community should mean. We as Americans still prescribe to the notion that I have to get mine before anyone else and at all costs. We generally do not understand that if we work together to establish community and work out issues of employment, health, maintenance, care, and support systems, it will be good for family units within the community. We seem not to value each person's contribution because we think this diminishes our individual self. So when someone like Donald Trump rises up and attacks the very thin and frayed fabric of our society, it is a major struggle to hold it together. Boy, that's pretty thoughtful, I thought. I think a lot of what she has to say there, and some of what my other friends had to say there, I think are worthy of giving some consideration. First of all, I did a little research, as I'm prone to do, and one of the things that I discovered was I was looking to see how Germany dealt with the Nazism problem. And what I learned was Germany teaches about the Nazism experience to their kids and students. They teach it. They tell people about it. They tell their members of their country about it. The kids grow up knowing about it. And they do not allow any public display of Nazi symbols. So isn't that interesting how different they approach the Nazi past versus our slave past? It's very, I'm going to get into that some more, but as I was reading that and I was listening, and one of the things that in this particular article, there was a young lady from Germany that traveled to Israel, and she wanted to meet with Jewish people because she felt that there was some responsibility for her to apologize for what had happened in the past, even though she did not directly participate in it. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and so she talked about that particularly. And Jay, my friend, how are you today?
Okay, I'm glad to talk.
Jay?
What you were talking about, and when you were talking about history, about going back in time and what the slave master believed in, that was like the Willie Lynch syndrome.
Yeah.
If you read that Willie Lynch letter, it's almost exactly what you said.
Yeah.
If you read it, it's the same wording and the same strategy, out of control, and make sure that you can pit one against the other. The house Negro against the field Negro.
Well, yes.
And it happens today.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my family. I've seen it happen, and I just shake my head, and I said, man, whoever came up with that concept knew exactly what they were talking about.
Oh man, I've seen it in my family as well.
Yeah. what I wanted to say was about tonight. You got Pence and Kamala Harris. They're going to have a debate, and the thing that's so sad is that Pence, he's supposed to be the guru about this pandemic. He's supposed to be the leader. He's supposed to be the person, the czar, the pandemic czar, or whatever title you want to give him. He's supposed to be very knowledgeable, and he's supposed to be leading the scientists, doctors, and everybody out about wearing masks and making sure that you cover your about and you do all the right things. And it's just amazing that everything is backwards. And the president, he comes out of the hospital, he gets on the balcony of the White House, and he looks like the one in Italy. What was his name?
Yes, Mussolini.
Right along this Mussolini. Yeah, he looked just like Mussolini. I saw him in one of those old film clips where they showed Mussolini, and he had like one of those stance, and he was like, I guess he had he really felt like he was Mussolini or Hitler at that particular time when he got out of the hospital and he was back in the White House. And it was amazing the thought pattern of these people. And,
but I
they
think
understand that the people are voting in droves. They understand that the people are coming out and breaking records, and so they coming up with all of these little things to have voter suppression. They're changing the rules because they run a lot of the state houses, so they can do a lot of that. And I think once Pence gets in there, they got to change a lot of these rules, especially with the Attorney General.
Oh yeah.
They got to change that, and they got to make sure that nobody messes with the the person that looks over the shoulder of the Attorney General.
Yeah, the Voting Rights Act is definitely, when they gave the decision about the Voting Rights Act, they gave a prescription for what to do if they wanted to put it back in place again. So the blueprint's already there. It's just there's been no willingness to go ahead and do that again. But you're right. Listen, that thing that the governor from Texas did in Harris County was an absolute disgrace. He made one voter drop-off in a county that's got like 6 million people.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then in a county where they had 169,000 people, he has one drop-off. That is so unfair, but you know what? I got to say, for the first time since this process began, I really think some people really woke up this past few days and said, wait a minute. This guy is not good for this country. Did you see the thing? Hayden, who is really a conservative guy, he came out and he did an ad today in which he absolutely said that he was voting for Biden because he loved his country. Yep. He disagreed with a lot of things of Biden, but he said he loved his country and his country would be better off with Biden than Trump. And I thought to myself, wow.
They're coming out because they understand, see, a lot of the true conservatives are people that, like go back to, Reagan and all that and all those other folks that were behind him and worked, all the way from that time up to now. They understand that they're losing, the party is going in the wrong direction, and it's not what they believe in. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see it whittle on the limb and just die out, because that's probably what's going to happen, because the people are going to wake up, and I see they're waking up every day and they're understanding what's going on, because it's hitting them in the pocket and people are dying and nobody's doing anything about it. So anything will wake you up. That will wake you up when you're losing family members.
I think this is going to be a colossal beating. I really do. I feel it. Did you see 2 polls came out yesterday? Biden was up by 14 points in one and 11 in another one. I think this is going to be a colossal beating. I think on everybody saying we won't know on election night, but I think the margin is going to be so big on election night, we will probably know who won.
Yeah.
So, but
the I just want to say this, fine. The only thing that I'm hoping that they have a lot of people, a lot of activists out here, lawyers and everybody that's watching all of this stuff with the voter suppression and making sure that things are done right. And right here in Florida, we're pretty fortunate that the laws that we had, in other words, when you send in your ballot, if you're doing it by mail, they count it right away. It's counted as soon as the ballot come in.
Yeah.
You got a place like Pennsylvania, they don't count until after the 3rd of November, after the election.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And that's stupid, but that's part of the game.
Yes.
So they have plenty of time to organize and try to figure out how to eliminate those votes with all that time they have. So that has to be watched. And so I'm hoping that we have people, lawyers and activists that are really into it, and some of our politicians, some of our senators and Congress people and all, they all have a job to do to make sure that this election is legit. There's no hanky-panky going on, taking people, veterans. Even they mess with veterans votes. They tell me down in Pennsylvania, some veterans votes that came in through the mail got misplaced. So,
I got to let you go, Jay. I got another call.
Okay, just take care now.
Okay, thanks for calling. And Mark, we got Mark on line 3. Yes, sir.
Rudy, how are you this evening?
Okay.
I'm curious. I know that you obviously not a Trump fan.
Uh-huh.
But the African-American community had the lowest unemployment rate in history during the President Trump. President Trump created prison reform. They cut many people out of jail, especially and one black lady who was going to be in there for life. She got out, and there's a commercial on that. He's created enterprise zones in low-income areas, which is a opportunity for money to follow into our lower socioeconomic areas to push enterprise in those areas, to create jobs. And then, he's a school choice president, where Biden is anti-school choice. I mean, the education of our children is the most important part of any community. And I think if the African-American community has one thing to really gripe about, that would be their ability to have good schools.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, first, let's.
I'll let you respond to all that. I mean, those are quite a few things that President Trump has done for the African-American community.
Well, not completely.
And he doesn't get any credit for it.
No, because he doesn't. Because the jail, the reforms that
reform?
Yeah, the prison reform, that was initiated by Democrats, and the
that was started back under Clinton.
Okay, the unemployment rate decline had started under Obama. It just carried over on to Trump, but that was already underway. I can't speak about
52 million people on food stamps, most ever.
You're talking about under
Obama.
Okay.
Under Obama.
So are you trying to say that Obama's responsible for putting more people on food stamps?
Well, it's a fact. All you have to do is look at the people that were on food stamps during Obama's presidency.
Well, if you look at
number of people on food stamps ever.
Okay, I bet you we got more people on food stamps right now than you did have under an Obama. You want to bet? I'll bet you.
How much can you afford, Rudy?
I'll bet you with all the people. Well, all the people that have been laid off.
Do the research. Get on Google.
With all the people that have been laid off under COVID, you mean to tell me you don't think that there's more people on food stamps? There's people in food lines.
No, because they got unemployment checks that were boosted by the federal government.
And they have expired since July.
We're making more money staying at home on unemployment than they could full-time employment.
Oh, my God.
A guy who was making $500 a week was now making $1,000 a week because he got the $300 or $400 from the state of Florida, and then he got another $600 from the federal government. So now he's getting $1,000 a week when he was working for $500 a week. That's all he was getting. So why should he go back to work?
you conservatives say that all the time, and it's been proven that is fictitious. People want to work. Mark, Reagan started that.
I agree with you, people want to work, but
Reagan started that stuff about people wanting to live off the government on the dole. I did the research on that. Do you know the average person that gets food stamps or public assistance is 36 months? Now, are there some malingerers? Do I know some people in my lifetime that I know that should have been working that were on food stamps? The answer to that is yes. But the real question is, the average person is 36 months. And they're off. And many of them are within 12 months. It is a temporary measure to try to uplift people. Let me just tell you something I learned. Wait a second. Let me give you something that I learned from Roxy, who I can't think of the name of her program. She helps homeless people. Her and I kind of had a falling out, so we don't talk anymore. But one of the things I learned from her about the homeless is, when you're down trying to get back up, the average person couldn't get back up, because here's the deal that happens. You don't have a place to live. So in order to get a place to live, you got to get first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit. And since you haven't had utilities in the past, you now have to put a deposit or post a bond for your utilities. So you're looking at a situation where when you're down, it could cost you $5,000 or more to get back up on your feet. So
why should you be down?
Because things happen. One of the things that I saw when I had her on, there was a lady whose husband left her with her 2 kids, and she was sleeping in a tent in Martin County, going to work every day at Walmart. She couldn't get enough money to get up off her feet, on her feet. You don't think things like that exist.
You're telling me they don't have any assistance in Martin County?
What I'm telling you, I swear to God, is true. Roxy said it in her own mouth, and I saw several people. There are people in this community in St. Lucie County and Martin County that live in tents and go to work every day. You find that hard to believe, don't you?
But that's probably because they want to live in tents.
No, they don't want to live in tents.
Wait a second. You have Section 8 housing. You have federal assistance.
How do you get in Section 8? You still got to have money. You still got to have money to get in Section 8.
The government's supplying you with all this money.
No, they're not.
$200 a month walking around money.
I used to own a property in New York, and I had Section 8 tenants before I sold it. They had to have money to get into my place.
No, they had to be doing something, and they had to pay a percentage of the rent that you were requesting.
They still had to have.
Was matching everything above what they could afford, which was 25% of whatever they earned.
Okay, listen. I'm just going to tell you. Listen. Here's the problem. This is the problem consistently with conservatives. They really don't believe that people actually suffer like that. They believe if they was properly motivated, that they could get it on their own and wouldn't need any help. Well, that is just
properly motivated.
Well, I'm going on you. You're saying they're intense because they want to be intense.
That's correct.
So you think people are living in tents and going to work every day because that's the way they want to live?
That's correct, because they could get public assistance like everybody else does that would help them offset.
You're going to work.
If they're going to work and they're living in a tent, then they don't have any of those costs you were just talking about. they should be able to save some money. If they're working at Walmart, they're making what, $9, $10 an hour?
Mark, you're living in la-la land like, unfortunately, a lot of conservatives. Those people exist.
So
They are among us. You don't see them. You don't want to see them. You don't want to see them.
What are they doing with their money?
I don't know. Why don't you go out and talk to them?
Well, you're the one that's telling me they're going to work and coming back, so you must be talking to them. What do they do with their money?
I can't answer that question, but I can tell you this. There's absolutely people living in tents going to work every single day. Now, I know that's hard for you to believe, but why don't you go and try to look that up?
No, I can believe that. That's not a problem. They had a tent city in Palm Beach.
Okay, so you think
to Portland, you got people living underneath bridges.
But you think people want to do that?
I think that they really don't want anything else to do. I think that's the way they prefer to have their life.
I've made an observation very similar to Mark's. I've noticed, and are you familiar with the Riverwalk in downtown Fort Pierce?
Yes.
Okay, there are homeless people down there all the time, and I found out a dirty little secret about some of those guys. Some of those guys have pensions, and they have a lot of money in their card, and they prefer to live and sleep under the bridge because they just don't want to pay so much for housing. They claim
there are a lot of veterans the same way.
Yeah, right. A lot of these guys are veterans with pensions, a lot of them, but still, you know, there is help available to them. People are kind to them, and they come by and they give them money, but they don't really need it. They buy them bicycles, but they don't really need it. They have the money. They have good money, especially if they don't have any rent.
So, Cliff, do you think that's the majority of the people?
No.
Okay,
no.
That's my point.
Okay,
it's not the majority of the people. See, and that's the argument. When you make that argument, then you diminish the worth of the people that really need the help. Because if you assume that they're there because they want to be there, then that says, you say that, okay, well, they don't need any help because they're doing what they want to do is be poor. I don't accept that.
No, I don't think they want to be poor, Rudy. I just think that this is a style of living that they're accustomed to. You know, how many food banks do we have in St. Lucie County? We got to have at least a dozen. You can't starve in this county. There's always someplace to eat.
Well, I'm not going to argue.
So
with
you can
Mark,
get a meal if you're working at Walmart, like this lady you're telling me. You're really going to ask her, why does she continue to live in the tent? I understand what it takes to get an apartment and everything else. But if she's only working at Walmart and not making that much money, she should be able to get federal assistance for housing.
Mark, I'm going to let you go because you and I are not going to get anywhere with this.
Well, no, I'm just asking you because you're telling me about these people that are living in tents and working, and I don't understand why someone would do that unless they wanted to. Because if you're making $400 or $500 a week, in a month or so, you've got that deposit. You've got that electrical deposit. You've got all those different things. Now, if you can't afford to do that, then the federal government will take care of you. We take care of a lot of people.
Okay, Mark. Thank you, sir. And we got Phyllis on line 1. Yes.
Yes, Irene. Hey, I'm just curious. When you're talking about, you know, with the divide in this country, and they're teaching everybody in school about slavery and all that, how come we never hear of racism on the other side? Like, is it only white on black? There's no black on white? And that how many black slaves had owned slaves when they were in the South, going back to 1800 and like the 50s?
Okay.
Like one of them he owned 53 slaves and his sons owned combined 16. There's like 180 black owners of slaves. But nobody seems to talk about that. They just make the white man, you know, the horrible person. On both sides. There's racism on both sides.
Okay.
So I just don't know why it's always talked on one side and not the other side.
Define racism for me.
Racism?
Yeah, define it.
It's people picking on people just because of their color, or they don't like them because of their color. They grow up hating people, or people of another religion. It doesn't have to be just be white or black. It could be a lot of different things.
You
nobody seems to talk about.
You you have to be in a position of power also. If you're going to say racism, they have to be in a position of power to hold another group of people down. So it's hard for you to be racist if you are not in a position to have power to hold another group of people down.
I don't see what has to be racist. It has to be a group or power. It could be one person on one person. One person shoots another person just because they're black or they're white, or they beat them up because they walk through their neighborhood. That's not a group or
well, that's
power.
not.
That's just somebody bigger.
That's not racism. That's being racist. There's a difference.
Okay, then racist, but my question to you is, how come nobody seems to teach that also blacks own slaves?
Indians own slaves.
Nobody seems to have a problem with that.
Indians own.
But if you're going to teach the past, like you said, the Nazi, like Germany with the Nazis and all of that, I get that, because you don't want history to repeat itself, because that's what happens when you bury it. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to teach it in a hateful way. You can teach it, this is what happened. We have come a long way. We have definitely come a long way. We're not all the way there. I get that. And we're probably never going to be there, because some people are always going to be, what would you say, morons, whatever, idiots, or never accepting whatever, their upbringing, whatever the case may be. Somebody's always going to hate somebody for some reason. And you're never going to get past that. Just like what's happening in other countries with religion. That's the way life is. But why can't we go past that and say, yeah, we've done horrible things in our past, but look at us now. Look at what we have done now. Why does it always have to be so negative and get people so angry that they want to go and hate other people and just keep on hating people? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, yes, I
There's
do.
a way to move on, but we don't seem to move in that direction.
Well,
we just seem to make it so that everybody is angry and they want to riot and they want to say it only happens to the blacks, like white people don't get shot by cops. I get it. But why hasn't there been any reports about a white guy being shot by a cop? I'm a 5-foot white woman. And I have been stopped, and on 2 occasions, I've had a cop point a shotgun at me. I didn't do it. I didn't rob anything. I didn't do anything. Okay? I was going a little over speed limit, but my hands were up, and I'm like, what's with the gun? And I'm like, okay? So, that doesn't make the news. But if you stop the black guy, it's because he's black. No, I'm sorry. It's not always that way. Yeah, there is racism among some people, but it's not always that way.
Well, let me just say this to you, Phyllis, okay?
Uh-huh.
I want you to understand that we told you for years and years and years this was happening, and nobody believed us. They thought we were making it up. And then now you have cell phones with cameras on it. Now that people, okay, well, just hear me out for a second. Now that we have cameras on cell phones and people are taking pictures of it, you don't want to see it because you find it offensive and you feel as though it is designed to make you feel guilty. Well, no.
I don't at all.
Okay, well then tell me, why does it bother you? Because it's nothing but telling the truth. Why would that bother you?
Why are you assuming? No, you're assuming. You're jumping to a conclusion. I haven't said anything about that. What I'm saying to you is there hasn't been not one media report of it happening on the other way, of a cop shooting a white guy or beating up a white guy. It never happens. They never show that. And you know it happens, okay? But they never show that. So it makes everybody think it's only one way, and they get them very angry. And as far as destroying property and everything like that, how do you expect somebody to take your cause when you act like that? I'm sorry. If I don't like you, does that give me the right to destroy your house or to burn your house down because I'm getting my point across? No, that's not how it should work. And that's the problem why this country's getting crazy.
Well, no, that's not the sole reason why. Part of the reason why this country is because of denial. People do not want to accept what has happened in this country. I'm telling you, if you go back, I can go all the way back to 1863. When they first released the slaves, okay, the slave owners in 1862, Lincoln gave them restitution because they were property that had been released. In 1863, after the slaves had been released, they came up with these laws that allowed the local law enforcement to lock up people for stuff like vagrancy, very simple stuff. And you know what they did to them after they locked them up? They leased them back to the masters that owned the plantations. So this problem with law enforcement goes all the way back to 1863. If you're old and if you're close to my age, you certainly turned on the TV news at night and you watched police beat the crap out of black people and fire hoses on them. That was in the 60s. And we're now in 2020, and you're asking me to say, well, why can't we just forget it? You keep seeing it over and over.
No. I'm not saying no. You misunderstood what I said. You did not listen to what I said. I didn't say forget it. I said when we teach it in schools of what had happened, teach it in schools of what had happened, but then we have made changes and we've come a long way. And we haven't come far enough. So I'm not saying ignore it or deny it. I never said that. You're saying that. I never said that. What I'm saying to you is it's all of a sudden, it's only one side. Only one side getting killed by cops or beat by cops. No, it happens on both sides. But they never show it happening to a white guy. Did you ever once see it happen to a white guy? No.
Yes, I have.
You know darn good and well it happens.
Yes, I have seen it.
They put it out there, right? So why don't they put it out there so that they don't feel like they're isolated? It's only happening to one race. It's not just happening to one race. Okay, it's unfortunate whoever it happens to, but let's be honest and put it out there. The black guy that shot the 1-year-old in a stroller just looked up and blew him away in Brooklyn. Go research that. How many people have heard about that? I mean,
I heard about it.
It's gone crazy. The world has gone crazy because now people feel empowered or emboldened, or I have a right because I've been oppressed. No, you don't have a right. You don't have a right to destroy somebody's city, where they live, or their home, or anything else. You're upset. Handle it legally. Go picket all you want. Go demonstrate. But when you destroy city property and everybody else's business, I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for you anymore. You just lost my case. I can't pick up your plea, and that's the way I feel. That's just like you destroyed my house because you're upset about something. No, I'm sorry.
Well, no,
there's a better way of doing it.
I don't endorse rioting or looting. I do not. I do, but I'm going to say this to you, that there's a frustration that is hard for you to grapple with if you are not me. I'm going to say it that way.
I understand. I didn't grow up with that problem. I get that. No, I understand. I didn't walk in your shoes. I understand that.
Okay,
I understand that very well. But I have some very good friends that are black that are very well off and better off than me. I mean, I've worked all my life, 2-3 jobs, but I'm saying we've come a long way. And so my point to you is it's not all negative, and it needs to be put in perspective where, yes, it still happens to white people, and stop putting it out there because everybody just thinks it happens to black people and that this rioting is okay because they deserve to get their anger out.
I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that thinks the rioting is okay. I don't know anybody that thinks rioting and looting is okay. No, I don't know anybody that. Not any of my friends. None of my friends think rioting and looting is okay.
Well, who was the one who said that's okay because they're getting their retribution that way when they're stealing TVs and Rolexes and stuff like that? What kind of a comment is that?
Who said
Nobody
that?
here said that.
Yeah,
nobody here said that.
No, not your radio show. No. No, somebody had said that on one of the reports that's why it's okay. Well, or like that one mayor who said, well, let them get it out. Let them get out of this system. Are you kidding me?
Well, and first off, let me tell you, if you go back and you look at some of the footage from some of those looting, there was a whole bunch of white people looting. It wasn't
I'm not approving either side.
I know, but I'm just going to say, I just want to make it very clear that it was not all black people looting. There was a lot of white people looting, too. And I do not. Let me go on record for my audience and for the tape of this program. I do not endorse rioting and looting. I do not. I think those people that engage in rioting and looting should go to jail.
But, okay, we're on the same page there, that's for sure.
Okay.
And that would put a stop to it. But when they stand down and allow it to keep happening, and then it happens more and more and more because they know there's not going to be any consequences, that's why it's out of control. They should have stopped it from the first riot or the second riot because it's insane is what's been allowed to happen in this country. It is sad what's happening in this country, basically. It really is.
I agree with that. I think
it
is sad what's happening in this country. You're right about that.
It's horrible. It's horribly sad, and people don't have feelings for each other. You know, I don't care what color you are. People are people. I mean, move on. And I don't agree. I don't know if do you think people should be paid for what happened during the slavery time? They should be compensated. I don't understand that because nobody today was a slave. Nobody, not even their grandparents.
Okay. Well.
So and then how are you going to make that right? Because what about the black slaves that own slaves? What is that all about?
Well, if you're asking me my opinion is the answer is yes, but I would oppose it only because it would tear the country apart to do it. But I think yes, because initially each slave was supposed to get 40 acres and a mule, and then that was taken back. So they never got the reparations they were supposed to get. And so yes, I think yes. But I don't think that for the sake of my country, which I love, I would say don't do it because it would cause irreparable harm to the United States as a whole.
Well, not only that, but to make retributions right, going back that period of time, you wouldn't be paying as many people as you'd be paying now today because our population has grown immensely, and the cost that would cost us today as opposed to then. So, I mean, the women back then, they couldn't vote. I'm sure there was other things that went on with women back in the ages. Why should we should be compensated? I mean, every nationality has been others worse than others, but just let's move on and can we just make peace instead of causing riots, instead of fueling the fire? Because that's what's going on in this country. We're fueling the fire.
I got to let you go.
One quick question for Phyllis. Have you ever considered getting into politics? She sounds like a college student. I love how these young people are participating in this stuff.
Well,
thanks, Phyllis.
I gotta let you go, Phyllis. I got another call. Thank you.
Well, I'm an old fart. You're welcome. Bye bye.
Yeah. Steve, yes, sir.
Steve, Rudy.
Yes.
Steve Winhow. I'm not supposed to mention my last name. Whatever.
Well,
I've been listening to you for years.
Okay.
And you and I have had some. I even remember the last time that you and I spoke with each other. We took our conversation off the air about 2 or 3 years ago because you and I were so intensely involved in understanding each other about an issue that we discussed at that point in time. You may or may not remember me.
I think I do.
But I remember a good Steve on the show.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good Steve. Oh, gosh. Well, yeah, because in my lifetime, I've always tried to be very tactful, very diplomatic. I've also tried to be very factual, very, very factual. I've been listening to what's going on today on your radio show, and honestly, I mean, you have been bombarded left and right, at least for the last 20 to 30 minutes, by people who don't agree with you.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is this, I understand, I really do understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, what I'm trying to do in my lifetime, and I'm 71 years old, I'm still a teacher in the school district. And I put everything I have into my life as a teacher for all my kids. And I don't care if they're black, I don't care if they're white or Hispanic or whatever the case may be. I give everything to all my kids. Okay. I say that as a precursor because I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I respect you because you're being open, you're being honest, and you're being sincere about your position. But let me say this to you, and I truly do believe this deep down inside of me. At the age of 71, I've seen a lot happen in my lifetime. I was a kid when they were, battling tooth and nail in the South for freedom, for the black people, for equal rights, the whole 9 yards. big deal to me. Martin Luther King, one of the greatest people in my lifetime, a tremendous person who did, I mind, in the right way, like Gandhi did in India, to promote the equal rights of all the people in the areas that they represented, in the case of Martin Luther King, here in the United States. I also worked at Malcolm X College. And the first thing that they gave me when I worked at Malcolm X College was the biography of Malcolm X. And I learned an awful lot about Malcolm X. That, in turn, also led me to learn an awful lot about Louis Farrakhan. I mean, I've really done an awful lot to learn the truth. And this is the thing that I'm trying to say, the truth about what is going on in this country, the truth about what has happened in the past. Try to pretend that our founding fathers were not racist. You can use that term, and I was really intrigued by the conversation you had with a woman just a few moments ago about the definition of the term racist. And still, I don't know how that came out between the two of you, because I went off somewhere else before I came back to you. I've experienced racism. I experienced racism as a white man working in the predominantly west side of Chicago. And I think you understand what that means, yes. The west side of Chicago. Mm-hmm. But the one man who hired me to work for him at Malcolm X College was a black man who was born and raised on the west side of Chicago. Eventually, he went on to become very successful. He got his bachelor's degree. He got his master's degree. He was a doctorate, and he became the president of Malcolm X College. And this man, he recognized me for who I was and what I was. And he wanted me to come to work for him. And he took me away from a West Side organization working with Hispanics to come to work for him at Malcolm X College. He knew that because of my color, I was going to have some issues. And I'm not lying. I'm being very sincere because I lived it.
Okay.
But he stuck with me. He stuck to my side all the way to the very end. And eventually, the people on the west side of Chicago began to accept me for who I am as a person, not my color. But it took some time. It took some time because there were people on the west side of Chicago who hated my guts because of my color, but that's all right. I got over it, they got over it, and we went forward. When I left Malcolm X, he sat me down and he told me, listen, I want you to take everything that you've learned here, and wherever you go, teach it to the ones you are going to work with in the future. And he did that. The man's name, and I really want to say it over the air because he was a really great man who really never got a great amount of attention. His name was Dr. James C. Griggs, president of Malcolm X College. And he was one of the finest people that I've ever known in my life, a black man who was born and raised in a predominantly black community, but he taught me how to deal in the black community, and he taught me how to overcome racism. He taught me how to learn to accept people for who they are and what they are, which, by the way, I had a little bit of already in the first place because of my mother. I just wanted to share that with you today. Okay. I hope that this is a positive message.
Yes, it is. And when you start talking about the Malcolm X College, I remember us having that dialogue. And you called me in my car. I remember now. I was talking to you in my car after the show. Yes, I do.
Yes. I want us to stop fighting with each other, to find commonality, to find the things that we have in common with each other, and stop with this racism thing. Honestly, it's become too much. I do not believe, and you will probably not agree with me on this one, but I'm going to tell you this. Being 71 years of age, seeing what I saw in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and now into this new century, I seriously do not believe that there is what we call systemic racism. Is there racism in the white community? Yes. Is there racism in the black community? Yes, there is. But I don't think up until a few years ago that we had this problem.
That's not true. That's just not true. That is just not true. But listen, I don't want to let me because we're getting near the end of the hour. But I just want to say this because this is an example I want to hold up. We had an example of how people can come together with opposite points of view when you look at the relationship RBG had with Antonin Scalia. They were best friends, okay? And how could that happen? Because I know how it happened. I'm going to tell you how it happened because their disagreements was on the analysis of facts, not on the facts.
Exactly. Like you and me right now.
Okay, so now you can have a different idea, come to a different conclusion on your analysis of the facts, but you're working with the facts first. And if you're dealing with the facts first, then you can actually come to grips with something. If you're putting...
And I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you totally and completely. And believe me, let me say this to you. I live and die by facts. In fact, on my website, on my Facebook website...
I'm going to have to let you go because the end of the hour.
Doggone, dude. We'll be back in touch.
All right, call me back next week. Yeah.
Okay. One of those great shows.
Yeah, I'm going to have to listen, folks. I'm going to continue this show next week because I really didn't get to any of the stuff that I really wanted to get to. So.
I think we're in good hands, though. The kids these days that are taking us into the future, folks like Phyllis, who sounds to me like she got straight A's in debate class, might be interested in actually helping us all do something about it.
Yes.
That's what we like.
Folks, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the African American Scene. God bless, be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene, and we will continue our discussion on how we got divided.
Absolutely. Archives of this show are on YouTube. Look for WPSL TV. In fact, go to WPSLTV.com. That's our website. That's our YouTube presence. And archives of the African American Scene are there. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.